It should be obvious that we cannot solve a crisis with the same methods that got us into it in the first place.
This is a last chance saloon. Because if we don't really take the decisions that are vital now, it's going to be almost impossible to catch up.
We will end the moratorium on extracting our huge reserves of shale, which could get gas flowing as soon as 6 months. We'll give way.
If unprecedented changes are not made and made soon, there will be irreversible damage to the planet.
Zero carbon.
East Talk. Hello and welcome to Zerocarbonista, Series 4 Fool's Gold. I'm Ian Collins and this is the UK's #1 environment-based podcast. As we always seem to say, if it's green, it is in. Let's speak to our man with his fit. No, I tell you what, I won't do it. Let this lady do it.
Dale Vince founded the green energy provider Ecotricity. He's donated to the Labour Party as well as other parties. Among other protest groups, he's a prominent financial supporter of Just Stop Oil, who campaign, sometimes controversially, against fossil fuels.
There it is, Dale. She does it so much better than me.
I wouldn't say that, actually. I don't think anybody does it better than you. And that's not blowing smoke, right? I mean, I just think you have the most glorious introductions. Mike Graham's maybe a close second. He gave me a great introduction last time I was on with him.
That's brilliant. Fiona Bruce comes. I mean, that was a lovely moment. Of course, this for those who didn't see it, this was Question Time just a few days ago. Did you enjoy it?
I did, all the way up in Fleetwood. I turned them down for like 2 weeks solid. They got to the point of begging, and Fiona Bruce asked me personally. I hope I'm not like I don't know, saying something I shouldn't say here. but
no, that's quite nice. Yeah,
you know, really didn't want to go because it's so far and disruptive and stuff like that. But last minute, the day before, I said, you know what, I'll do it. It seemed to make sense to me. And then at the end of the show, we all had chips. So I said, you should have said there were chips at the get-go. We could have saved all of this trouble.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, the chip is always the deal breaker. If they'd just, because I know that they do have food at the end of it, but it's interesting because I think they used to have like a banquet, and now it's chips. There's austerity for you right there at the BBC.
From a fish and chip van, apparently, as well. It wasn't even from like a brick building. It was from a van. Which
it's handy. The world's most famous vegan food that everybody forgets about, we say it all the time, is chips.
Yeah, absolutely. I've even got a T-shirt that says it.
What about your fellow panellists, Dale? How did you get on with these guys?
Well, like Johnny Mercer, Tory MP, I met him like before the show, and I thought he was a nice enough guy. Amusingly, on the way in, he said to me, I've got a dossier on you, and he waved this thick sheaf of papers at me. He's like, you must have one on me. I'm like, well, no, actually. So I think he'd been briefed by a Conservative Party HQ to come on the show and do a number, which he spectacularly failed to do. The Labour shadow education Bridger person I thought she was really good, really coherent and clear, and you know, great in arguing with Johnny. And then there was Kate Andrews from The Spectator, and I just thought, do you know what? What are you here for? I didn't like what she said. I didn't like the way she said it. You know, she's basically trying to tell us right at the start of the show that we should privatise the NHS, which I railed against. You know, I'm like, where's privatisation ever worked?
I don't think even. I saw that clip. I mean, you and Mercer would have been together on that point then, really, because I don't think he believes that either.
Well, it's interesting because he was saying basically the NHS is fine. There's nothing to see here. She was saying it's like the worst in the world and you need to privatise it. And I'm like saying, it is bad, right? But it's been underfunded and undermined by the Tories for 13 years. And the staff have been treated terribly, going from like heroes during the pandemic to zeros 18 months later when they wanted a fair pay rise. Yep. And all of this got like huge applause from the audience. So I'm saying, yes, it's bad, but privatization isn't going to make it better because it hasn't done it for energy, for rail, for water. You know, we've got sewage everywhere, for example, in that industry. You know, it's a morally bankrupt ideology, morally and economically and visibly bankrupt. You know, I mean, Thames Water literally are on the verge of bankruptcy. I mean, who, after all these decades of privatization, the experiment, can say that it worked? Yeah. So I thought it was really foolish of her just to bang on with loads of stats and stuff like that. But that wasn't the only clash of the evening. There were a few. And the bouncer, amusingly, big security man, told me when we were eating chips, he was like, this is the first show I think ever that I've had to stand up because I thought something was about to kick off.
Really? The bouncer, the question time bouncer? I mean, this is great at Showbiz Insight. The question time bouncer. That's right. The hell's... I mean, I know Bruce can get a bit ninja on the audience if she doesn't like the look of someone, so maybe it was that.
Yeah, we had a moment where she said, well, you know, you aren't answering the question, which was so untrue. And I'm like, I'm answering the question. I'm even answering the question questions that you forgot, right? Because there was a question about houses that I picked up, and in good humor, right? That kind of thing. She did try to shut me up a couple of times. At one point, she said, "This is not the Dale Vince show," but quite humorously, because I just couldn't stop myself talking once I started.
Yeah, but you see, underneath it all, they love all that and question time like that, and you get this opportunity. You can sit quietly on the sidelines and proffer a little bit of gentle wisdom, or you can go the for it. And you took the latter route. And
you saw it, did you?
You know, you were the standout panelist on it, and that's what they can't say it aloud because it would sound biased in some respects, but that's what they want.
Yeah, they did love it. They said it was a great episode, and I'm sure I'll be back. I thought Johnny bombed. I don't know why he did it, but to say that Just Stop Oil are funding Labour was just so calamitous for him. And to claim that the Tories invented the minimum wage, again, a massive mistake. And so he didn't really manage to get on the front foot, I think, because everybody's going, no, they didn't, you know, kind of stuff.
Well, that's a classic example, is the equation a lot of people do before they go on it. And I've known so many people that have gone on it and people that have worked on it as well. You either stand loads to lose or you can only gain. And I think you were in the latter category. And somebody like, you know, at this stage of a Tory government, it wouldn't have mattered who you'd have put there, really. They're always going to sound like a bit of a, well, as my old Nan would have said, a bit of a dick. There was no way around that, really.
Yeah, but, you know, such a silly thing to say. I mean, I know that all politicians try to get away with twisting the truth and stuff, but this was so blatant to claim to have created the minimum wage, you know, for example. Just got, well, like I said to him, you're so careless with your words, Johnny. The things he was saying, it was just like, maybe he didn't realize that we were listening.
Yeah, I think he was probably talking about something about a living wage, but I mean, that's not.
That's right. That's a rebranded minimum wage, so the Tories can own it.
Correct. And of course, the Tories argued against the minimum wage. That's the point. So why you would say something that's so demonstrably untrue. And what they're trying to do with the Just Stop Oil thing is they've come up with this line and they think, oh, this will learn them. We just keep saying that they're funded by Just Stop Oil because Just Stop Oil piss off a lot of our voters when they're trying to drive down the road. So if we keep saying that, people will believe it. But I don't even think Tory voters believe that, Dale. I genuinely don't think Tory voters actually believe that.
Who could believe it? Just Stop Oil don't fund other people.
It's not fucking true. That's why they don't believe it.
It's so dumb.
It's kind of that simple.
It reminded me, I saw a report in the news, I think it might have been today or yesterday. Some academics have done a study into this question that gets thrown at me all the time on right-wing news outlets, basically that, you know, Just Stop Oil are failing, they aren't bringing people with them and disruption doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. These academics have done a study and they reckon that disruption is working.
Wow.
You know, not in terms of like getting people to join Just Stop Oil, but I don't think that's their aim. But it actually is working in terms of changing, you know, the debate and bringing attention to the issue. Very interesting. I'm going to have to tell my friend Mikey next time I'm on his show.
Yeah, I think you should, yeah. I mean, the impressive thing about the Wimbledon let's throw a jigsaw puzzle in the air bit was the fact that a man who was about 150 was able to run around a tennis court. I thought,
bless him.
You know, regardless of what you think of the course, you know, this fella wasn't stopping and it took two people to bring him down.
Yeah, he done well. And I've seen a picture of him on social media, sat in the court there with his T-shirt on,
I saw that.
with his arms folded. And the words he wrote underneath were really moving. He said, I'll show this picture to my grandkids to prove to them that I did everything that I could. That's really moving.
Here's a question from Alistair Black, who says, Dale, what are your opinions on orbital marine? As far as I can see, the design deals with issues associated with tidal power. Is this something Ecotricity are going to get involved with? I think we better explain what orbital marine is, Dale.
Yeah, go on then.
I don't know. Do you know?
I think it's a tidal generator. I think it's a brand of tidal generator.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's a tidal component by his latter point. But
and these are generators that are kind of held under the surface of the water in a tidal stream, and they make electricity. Listen, I mean, generally we're in support in principle of tidal and wave energy, you know, tidal stream and wave energy, as well as tidal lagoons and basically anything that will work. I think the fundamental problem out in the ocean trying to make electricity is you're combining two very expensive things. Quite often, a submarine and an electricity generator. You know, they don't mix, and it really raises the cost. I think there must be scope for that technology, but it needs a breakthrough in cost. The tidal lagoons we're looking at look like they'll produce energy for 5 pence a unit, which is, you know, bonkers low. That's how it looks in theory. I think tidal stream probably in the region of double that, but I haven't looked recently. But that's the challenge for marine energy, to get the cost down. Onshore wind and solar have done that, right? They're so cheap now, they need no public money. So they ought to be at the forefront of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mike Graham from Talk TV, and I've been asked to tell you about green issues and a new book called Manifesto. It's brilliant, apparently. Do you believe in climate change? I don't. Do you believe we all need to find a greener way of living our lives? No, I don't either. I think it's all a load of guff perpetuated by loony lefties and eco-zealots hell-bent on causing a nuisance. Do you believe we're all killing our beautiful planet? No. Neither do I, but I know a fellow who does. His name's Dale Vince. He's so convinced he's written a whole book about it called Manifesto. The Battle for Green Britain. It's part memoir, part handbook for changing the world and shaking it up, apparently. I won't be buying it, but you can if you want to waste your hard-earned cash. It's $4.99. Pretty cheap, isn't it? You must be wealthy as hell. According to this script, it's available now from fgr.co.uk/shop.
What was the other story? You sent a story earlier today about meat products
yeah.
found in vegan food. What the hell was that about?
Yeah, Trading Standards, bless them, had gone and checked a whole load of supermarket foods that were labeled vegan or plant-based, and they found something like 30% were contaminated with animal products. Even the fake meat was contaminated with like real meat.
Wow.
Oh my God, it's so disgusting. I think some of it is just cross-contamination in the factory that handles two different things. The kind that actually killed somebody that ate a sandwich from Pret that had dairy in it, which is, Trading Standards is making a very good point. There are no minimum thresholds percentage-wise for the dairy, let's say, content of something that's meant to be dairy-free. And a lot of people with allergies, extreme allergies, count on plant-based food and vegan food to be completely free of animal products, but there is no legal definition of vegan or plant-based when it comes to food and what it can contain. So companies can be doing this deliberately. I don't know why they would, but they can be doing it deliberately.
Yeah. When people read those stories, they think, "Oh, it's half a pork chop in my corn." It doesn't have to be that, does it? It could be something, as you say, within the same food surfaces that they're working on.
Yeah, I think that's most frequently that.
There's been no care to kind of wipe it down and separate it.
It's a bit of a scare story for vegans, and let's say I feel it personally. It makes me less willing to buy stuff from supermarkets and stuff. I'm not that willing anyway. To begin with, but we basically can't trust processed food to be what it says on the label.
What about this one? Shell boss reckons cutting fossil fuel production is dangerous. You and I talked about this on the telly this week as well. He says it's dangerous and silly. I think it comes under the category of, he would say that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and actually I think he framed the debate with his statement in a disingenuous way, because nobody, let's say Just Stop Oil or the environment movement, is saying let's cut production. We're saying let's not make new stuff. Let's not drill for new oil and gas. That's a very different thing. And, the United Nations have said that it's moral and economic madness to drill for new oil and gas. That's what they say. And this fella says, we can't cut production. That would be dangerous. It's a false frame of the argument that he's making here. Nobody's saying that.
He's the boss of Shell Oil, Dale. He knows his shit, right? This guy knows oil. He knows stuff. Listen to the man. It's dangerous.
He does know shit. He does know shit. He speaks it. Because, he also said, we aren't building enough renewable energy. And it's like, hang on a minute, Mr. Shell. You live in a greenhouse here throwing stones, because Shell spends 1.5% of all of its capital expenditure, the big money that they spend on new stuff. Only 1.5% of that is spent on renewable energy. So, he's one of the guilty parties that aren't building enough, doing enough right now on the renewable energy front. But I think it's wrong. I think it's criminal. It should be illegal for big oil and gas companies not to transition faster. They've got the wherewithal. They've got huge funding, and they've got all the engineers and stuff that they need in the world to do that.
Here's another one that should be kind of encouraging in a curious way, Dale. Research suggests that improving soil could keep the planet within the 1.5 Celsius increase.
Yeah, it's a really interesting piece of research, or headline at least. I haven't read the report, but basically it's about improving soil health. And what's happened is modern agriculture has depleted carbon from the soil. And that means it's harder to grow crops. You need more pesticides and fertilizers and that kind of stuff. Basically, this is about treating the soil better. It will lock up massive amounts of carbon in the process, and it will grow better food for us, more nutritious food. So it's a big old win-win, And the only problem is we've got to change what the agricultural sector does, and that's not an easy thing.
Yeah, true. Jane on Twitter, I don't know how you managed to stay so calm. I'd have ripped Piers Morgan's face off This is obviously going back to the last time you were on Piers Morgan, right?
And it was good fun, actually. Again, it was good fun, and I got to prod him a little bit. I mean, he's one of these guys that just likes to exaggerate. He said, Just Stop Oil protesters are wrecking people's lives. I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. That's an exaggeration. We're talking about a few minutes of cricket or a few minutes of tennis, right? While the global climate crisis has killed 4 million people and makes 20 million people homeless every year. I said, that's real disruption. That's real wrecking of lives, FFS.
This one comes in from Ronnie on Twitter. Dale, is all your money going on buying big sporting tickets for the Just Stop Oil people? Because they do show up at some they've been to the snooker, they've been to the cricket, they've now been to Wimbledon. Is that what they're doing with the money, Dale? Have you got a special account at Viagogo or something?
As I tell the exasperated Mike Graham, I don't know basically who they are, what they do with the money, what they're planning. I don't know anything about them. I had a conversation with a couple of them. They're lovely people. I know that. And the people I met on the demonstration were lovely people. And they're nothing like the stereotype of the media, whether it's like middle-class activists or jobless people or I don't know, whatever it is they say. The stereotypes just don't fit the people that you meet in the movement. I think it might have been on with Pierce. He said something like that. And I'm like, oh, well, I think that guy at the tennis looks a bit older than that, Pierce, because, he tried the usual kind of young yobbos, university students, whatever kind of stuff, But it wasn't that.
It's quality fodder, Dale. It's quality fodder. Listen, Drax could lose energy subsidies over compliance issues. Tell us about Drax. And why might they lose their subsidies?
Well, Drax is like a Bond villain, isn't it, to me? That's what the name conjures up. And in this case, they probably are a villain. It's a coal-fired power station, a massive coal-fired power station that's converted to burning trees instead. And these trees are coming from Canada, and it turns out it's like virgin rainforest or Canada's equivalent to the rainforest. Even though Drax had denied it for years, a big undercover operation exposed that last year sometime. And, what they're doing is really hideous. And they claim that the trees, when they burn them, are carbon neutral. They leave the carbon footprint behind. They leave that in Canada. And they say this stuff magically gets chopped up, crosses the Atlantic with a zero carbon footprint. Well, come on, are we stupid or what? So I'm happy. If they lose their subsidies, I think it's a good job. I mean, they have had mad amounts of money from us for their fake green energy and the burning of, prime Canadian forests, which just shouldn't be allowed. So,
a question here from Kieran who says, if I object to Ecotricity giving my bill money to Just Stop Oil, what can I do?
You could leave us and don't pay your bill money to us is all I can think of, honestly, because you aren't going to change our stance, right? I think what Just Stop Oil are doing is brave. It's historically important. I think we'll look back in 10 or 20 years' time at them like the suffragette movement, people that just put themselves out there to bring about a big change that the government of the day simply wouldn't listen to.
I think that probably speaks to Kieran, because his actual message was a little saltier than that. So I just cleaned it up a little bit for the broadcast.
Bless, but look, don't be frustrated, Kieran. Just go somewhere else. Pay your bill money to to somebody that buys burnt trees from Drax or something.
Yeah, go and see the man from Shell. He will love you. And a final one to finish on, incredible news story, because this has had global attention. That's the interim coach at Forest Green Rovers. And this story has clearly got a lot of momentum for one very obvious reason, Dale.
Yeah. So we made the first appointment of a female in English football at the top flight, top four divisions. It may have happened elsewhere. And it's somebody from within our club, Hannah Dingley, who's been leading our academy for 4 years. And at that point, when we made that appointment, she was the first female to lead an academy in English football. Basically, we had the vacancy. She's the most qualified coach at our club, so it was obvious to offer her the role, the interim role. And although we knew it was a first and we thought there'd be some media interest, honestly, we weren't prepared for what came. It was the most intense thing I think that I've experienced. And, we've had a lot of media attention, not just as a football club, but it was on the same day we played our first pre-season friendly down in Melksham. And we were inundated with inquiries to the extent that we organised a press conference after the game. And I sat in a room with about 30 journalists, 6 cameras, and a whole host of, radio and print people behind them, and an array of microphones on the desk. And I said to them at one point, I keep getting these feelings of being in an episode of Ted Lasso. It was just surreal, actually. It's just surreal. And great fun. We had great fun with it and was able to make good points. The question came up at one point, what would you say to somebody that says it's a gimmick? This wasn't at the press conference, it was before the game. And I said, well, fuck off. actually, because that's insulting. That's insulting to Hannah, to the club, and to women in football.
Well, generally, completely. That.
Yeah.
So,
and that made it to the Guardian, that quote, and I think in the Sun as well. I mean, it was off the cuff, right? It was just off the cuff. But it was the truth. That's what I would say.
I wouldn't retract it. I think that's a completely fair position to take, isn't it? There it is.
Yeah,
Listen,
so there we go.
That's it for this week. Have a cracking week. We'll speak next Friday.
Yeah, cool. Oh, I'd just say off the back of this, I'm in Manchester at the moment. People won't know this. Just been to a sustainability event on a stage with the two mayors, Liverpool and Manchester, Steve Rodham, Andy Burnham, talking about how we turn the Northwest into a green energy superpower. We just unveiled the results of a 6-month study that shows a massive amount of green energy up here. And they were talking about the other stuff they're doing, electrifying transport, public transport, and all that kind of stuff. Just had a brilliant day.
Fantastic. That's it for this episode. Don't forget, of course, you can follow this podcast from your podcast provider so that you get each new episode automatically. Make sure you leave a review there as well. Really important bit is to follow Dale on social media. That's twitter.com/Dale Vince, facebook.com/Dale Vince.
Zero Carbon
East off.